They laughed at my food truck. Now I own 15 restaurants. The morning I rolled up to my first location in downtown Portland, the rain was coming down in sheets. My food truck, a converted 1985 Chevy Step van I'd bought for $8,000 and spent another $15,000 renovating, looked like a patchwork quilt of rust spots and fresh paint. The awning I'd installed myself was already sagging under the weight of the water, and I hadn't even served my first customer yet. What the hell is fusion comfort food supposed to mean? A man in an expensive suit laughed as he read my hand painted sign. He was standing under the shelter of a nearby building's overhang, waiting for his Uber with two colleagues. Korean tacos, mac and cheese spring rolls. This is why food trucks fail. His companions chuckled, and one of them pulled out his phone to take a picture, probably for his Instagram story, captioned with something mocking. I felt my cheeks burn, but I kept prepping my station, checking the propane connections for the third time that morning. That was 5 years ago. Last week, that same man, Richard Bentley, senior partner at Bentley and Associates, asked me to cater his daughter's wedding from all 15 of my restaurants. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a failed software engineer with a credit score in the 500s and a dream built a restaurant empire, one rejected loan application at a time. My name is Maria Santos, and I used to write code for a living. I was good at it, too good enough to land a job at a prominent tech startup right out of college. For 3 years, I lived the Silicon Valley dream: long hours, stock options, ping pong tables, and the promise that we were changing the world with our revolutionary app that helped people find parking spaces. Then the funding dried up. The company folded overnight, and suddenly I was one of thousands of unemployed programmers in a city where a studio apartment cost $3,000 a month. My stock options were worthless. My savings depleted from the high cost of living, and my confidence shattered. I moved back home to Portland, to my childhood bedroom with the same Paramore posters on the walls and the same creaky floorboard by the window. My mother, ever supportive, would bring me cafecito every morning and tell me, "Mija, sometimes God closes a door to open a window." "I think God locked me in a basement, Ma," I'd reply, scrolling through job listings that all seemed to require 10 years of experience in technologies that had only existed for 5. It was during one of those cafecito sessions that inspiration struck. My mother had made her famous kimchi fried rice, a recipe she'd developed after marrying my Korean stepfather, topped with Colombian chorizo and a fried egg. The combination should have been chaos, but instead it was perfect harmony. Spicy, savory, comforting, and completely unique. Hey, I said, taking another bite, people would pay good money for this. My mother laughed. "Who's going to buy Korean Colombian fusion from a Puerto Rican woman?" "Everyone," I said, and for the first time in months, I felt a spark of my old confidence. Everyone who's tired of choosing between authentic and accessible, between traditional and innovative. The idea consumed me. I spent weeks researching food trucks, permits, regulations, and suppliers. I taught myself to cook properly, not just the home cooking I'd grown up with, but professional techniques from YouTube videos and library cookbooks. I developed the recipes that told the story of my multicultural family: Korean BBQ empanadas, bulgogi arepas, kimchi-topped tostones, and yes, those mac and cheese spring rolls that would later become my signature dish. The business plan I wrote was 47 pages long, complete with market analysis, financial projections, and competitive landscape reviews. I printed it out at the library and bound it myself. Then I took it to 7 different banks, 7 rejections, 7 variations of insufficient collateral, unproven concept, and high-risk industry. One loan officer actually laughed, not unkindly, but laugh he did when I explained my fusion concept. "Listen, Maria," he said, leaning back in his chair, "food trucks are hard enough when you're selling something people understand. You want to sell, what was it? Gochujang pulled pork tamales." I walked out of that last bank and sat in my beat-up Honda Civic, fighting back tears. Then I called my stepfather, Jin. "How much do you need?" he asked after I'd explained everything. 30,000, I whispered, knowing it was more money than my parents had ever had at once. "We have 23,000 in retirement savings," he said. "It's yours." "Jin, I can't." "You're my daughter," he interrupted, his Korean accent thick with emotion. "Parents invest in their children. This is investing." With their life savings and a few maxed-out credit cards, I had just enough to buy and outfit the truck. I named it Soul Food, with Sabre Latino written underneath in smaller letters. My mother painted a beautiful mural on one side, a dancing couple where the woman wore a hanbok and the man a guayabera, sharing a plate of food between them. That first day in the rain, I made exactly $73. 7 customers, most of them curious food bloggers, who'd seen my desperate social media posts. But one of those customers was Jenny Chen, who ran the Portland food scene blog. She ordered one of everything, took a million photos, and posted a review that night titled, "The Food Truck That's About to Change Everything." The next day, I had a line. But success in the food truck world is relative. Yes, I was selling out most days, but I was also working 18-hour shifts, prepping in a rented commercial kitchen at 4 a.m., driving to my lunch location, serving until 2 p.m., then moving to a dinner spot, serving until 9 p.m., cleaning until 11 p.m., then starting all over again. My feet developed permanent blisters. My back ached constantly from hunching over in the truck. I gained weight from stress eating my own inventory during the slow periods. 6 months in, I was breaking even but breaking down. Then came the first winter. Portland winters are not kind to food trucks. The rain turns to freezing rain. Customers prefer indoor dining and heating costs triple. I watched my savings dwindle as I paid for propane, reinforced my awning, and bought weather gear for the increasingly rare customers willing to stand in line during a hailstorm. It was during a particularly brutal February week that I met Marcus Washington. He pulled up in a Tesla wearing designer sneakers that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. I braced myself for another mocking comment from another tech bro, but instead he studied my menu intently. "Give me 2 of the bulgogi burritos, 3 orders of kimchi fries," and he paused. "You know what, one of everything. I'm feeding my team." As I prepared his massive order, we chatted. Turns out Marcus was a venture capitalist who'd just moved to Portland from the Bay Area. He'd been following my truck on Instagram since Jenny's review. "You're thinking too small," he said as I handed him his bags. "This concept. This could be huge, but not from a truck." Yeah, well, banks don't exactly love lending to food truck owners, with 6 months of barely profitable operations. I replied, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Marcus handed me his business card, along with a $200 payment for a $67 order. "Keep the change, and call me when you're ready to think bigger." I tucked his card into my wallet and forgot about it until the accident. It happened on a Thursday. I was driving to my dinner spot when a distracted driver ran a red light and T-boned soul food. The truck flipped twice before landing on its side. I walked away with a concussion and bruised ribs, but my truck, my livelihood, was totaled. Insurance, it turns out, doesn't cover lost future income from destroyed food trucks. They cut me a check for $12,000, not even enough to buy another used truck, let alone outfit it. I sat in my childhood bedroom again, staring at that check, wondering if this was the universe's way of telling me to give up. That's when I remembered Marcus's card. "I heard about the accident," he said when I called. "Are you okay?" "Physically, yes. Financially and emotionally, not so much. Come to my office tomorrow. Let's talk." Marcus's office was in one of those converted warehouses in the Pearl District, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. He sat me down with a green tea and pulled out his iPad. "Hunt, I've been tracking your numbers," he said, showing me spreadsheets he'd compiled from social media posts and reviews. "You were averaging $500 a day in revenue from a truck with maybe 100 square feet of prep space. Your Yelp rating is 4.8 stars with over 200 reviews. Your Instagram engagement rate is 12%, that's influencer level." "Great," I said. "I'll print those stats out and frame them in my childhood bedroom." Marcus laughed. "Or you could let me invest in your first brick-and-mortar location." I stared at him. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. I'll put up $150,000 for a 30% equity stake. You maintain controlling interest and run the operations. I provide capital and business guidance." "What's?" I asked. "Why would you risk that much on someone with no restaurant experience?" "Because you have something more valuable, a proven concept, and a brand people love. The restaurant part. That's just operations. You can learn that." We shook hands that day and Soul Food Cantina was born. Finding the right location took 2 months. We looked at dozens of spaces before finding a failed pizzeria in the Hawthorne district. It was perfect existing kitchen equipment, good foot traffic, reasonable rent. The build-out took another 3 months, and every penny of Marcus's investment, plus another $50,000 from a small business loan he co-signed. I hired my first employees, Anna, a culinary school graduate who'd been following my truck since day one, and David, a veteran server who believed in the concept enough to leave a fine dining job. My mother came in as our prep cook, refusing to accept more than minimum wage despite my protests. Jin handled our books in the evenings after his day job. Opening night was March 15th, 3 years ago. We'd planned for a soft opening, just friends and family, but Jenny Chen posted about it, and suddenly we had a line out the door. The kitchen crashed twice, we ran out of bulgogi by 8 p.m. David accidentally spilled kimchi juice on a food critic from the Oregonian. I cried in the walk-in cooler while Anna held me and assured me it would get better. It did get better. The critic, despite the kimchi incident, wrote a glowing review. We were featured in Eater Portland as one of the essential new restaurants. Customers who'd followed the truck became regulars at the restaurant. Revenue in our first full month was $78,000, more than I'd made in 6 months with the truck. But growth brought new challenges. Restaurant margins are thin, and even with steady business, we were barely profitable. I was working even longer hours than truck days, managing staff, dealing with suppliers, handling customer complaints, and trying to maintain quality while scaling up recipes designed for small batches. 6 months after opening, Marcus sat me down for a reality check. You're burning out, and it shows in the numbers. Food quality is inconsistent, service is suffering, and you've gained, 30 pounds since we opened. He was right. I was stress eating, stress cooking, and stress managing. Something had to change. You need a real chef, Marcus continued. Someone who can execute your vision while you focus on the business side. I can't afford a real chef. You can't afford not to have one. Enter Carlos Medina, a James Beard-nominated chef who just left a high-end restaurant. Due to creative differences, he wanted to do more accessible food. They wanted to keep charging $45 for 4 ravioli. He came in for a tasting, tried our fusion dishes, and got excited in a way I hadn't seen since my early truck days. "But this is the future," he said, improving my bulgogi marinade with one simple addition, pear juice, so obvious in retrospect. Not stuffy fine dining, not generic fast casual, but this real flavor, real creativity, real soul. I hired him on the spot, giving him 5% equity to make up for the below-market salary. Best decision I ever made. With Carlos running the kitchen, I could focus on growth. We streamlined operations, improved our supply chain, and developed systems that could be replicated. By our first anniversary, we were consistently profitable and had a team of 15. That's when the second location opportunity arose. A developer in Beaverton was looking for a restaurant to anchor his new mixed-use project. The demographics were perfect: young families, tech workers, and a diverse population hungry for something different. Marcus and I ran the numbers with our proven model, and Carlos's systems. We could make it work. But we needed more capital. Bank loans were still difficult, restaurant failure rates scared most lenders. That's when Richard Bentley walked into our Hawthorne location. Yes, the same Richard Bentley who'd mocked my food truck 3 years earlier. He didn't recognize me, but I recognized him. He ordered the mac and cheese spring rolls, the dish he'd specifically laughed at, and the look on his face when he took the first bite was worth every sleepless night I'd endured. "Now, this is exceptional," he told David. "Is the owner in? I'd like to compliment them personally." I walked out of the kitchen wearing my chef's coat, trying not to smile too widely. "Mr. Bentley, so glad you enjoyed your meal." The recognition dawned slowly. The food truck? Fusion comfort food," I said. Still sounds ridiculous. To his credit, he laughed. "I'm an ass. This is incredible. You've built something special here." That night led to a conversation, which led to a meeting, which led to Bentley and Associates becoming our primary investor for expansion. Richard personally invested $500,000 and helped us secure a $2 million credit line. "Consider it penance for my ignorance," he said when we signed the papers. The Beaverton location opened strong and stayed strong. We refined our model further: smaller footprint, more efficient kitchen design, streamlined menu focusing on best sellers. Within 6 months, we were scouting location number 3. Growth accelerated from there. Location 3 in Lake Oswego, 4 and 5 in Southeast Portland, 6 in Vancouver, Washington. Each opening became easier as we developed our playbook: 2 weeks of staff training, soft opening for friends and family, social media, blitz, then grand opening. Carlos developed a chef training program, promoting our best line cooks and teaching them not just recipes, but the philosophy behind our fusion. Anna became our regional manager, overseeing quality control across all locations. David launched our catering division, which now accounts for 20% of total revenue. By year 4, we had 10 locations and were featured in Food and Wine as one of America's most exciting restaurant groups. We'd standardized operations enough to ensure consistency, but maintained enough flexibility for each location to adapt to its neighborhood. The Hawthorne location kept its food truck homage with picnic tables and string lights. The Pearl District spot went upscale with craft cocktails and small plates. The suburban locations focused on family-friendly atmospheres with kids' menus that didn't compromise on flavor. But rapid growth has its pitfalls. Location number 11 in a trendy part of Northeast Portland failed spectacularly. We'd rushed the opening, hired the wrong manager, and ignored warning signs about the neighborhood's changing demographics. It bled money for 6 months before we made the difficult decision to close it. That failure taught us valuable lessons about patience and due diligence. We slowed down, focusing on improving existing locations rather than aggressive expansion. We invested in better training programs, employee benefits, and community engagement. We started a scholarship program for culinary students and began sourcing more ingredients from local farms. Location 12 came a year later, replacing the failed 11, with a food hall concept, 5 different stations serving specialized parts of our menu. It was Carlos's idea, allowing us to test new concepts without committing to full restaurants. The kimchi fries station alone does $1,000 a day. 13 and 14 opened simultaneously last year, a calculated risk that paid off thanks to our experienced team and refined systems. Location 15, our largest yet, is set to open next month in Portland International Airport, bringing our fusion comfort food to travelers from around the world. But the sweetest victory came last month when Richard Bentley called about his daughter's wedding. 200 guests, all foodies, and I want them blown away, he said. Can you handle catering from all 15 locations? I want the full soul food experience, from the original truck recipes to your newest innovations. We pulled it off, a massive buffet featuring specialties from each location, served by staff from across our company. My parents worked the line proudly wearing soul food catering uniforms. Carlos created a special wedding fusion dish, delicate Korean-style crepes filled with Colombian wedding cookies. Even Jenny Chen was there, live tweeting the meal to her 50,000 followers. During the reception, Richard pulled me aside. You know what the best part is, he said, slightly drunk on soju cocktails. I get to tell people I discovered you, that I was there at the beginning with the food truck. I smiled and didn't correct him. Success, I've learned, means letting people write their own narratives while you focus on writing yours. Today, Soul Food Restaurant Group employs 312 people. We serve roughly 5,000 customers daily across all locations. Our revenue last year was $18 million, with healthy profits that we're reinvesting in our people and communities. We've spawned dozens of imitators and inspired countless fusion concepts across the country. But in my heart, I'm still that woman in the rain with the sagging awning, hoping someone will take a chance on kimchi fries. Every morning, I visit a different location, working the line during rush periods, tasting dishes, talking to customers. I gained back the weight I lost, occupational hazard, but I also gained something more valuable, the knowledge that ridiculous dreams sometimes make the best realities. My food truck still sits in our commissary kitchen, restored to working condition. Once a month, we take it out for charity events, serving free meals to communities in need. The line always stretches around the block, but now no one's laughing. They're too busy eating. Last week, a young woman approached the truck during one of these events. She had a business plan tucked under her arm, and the desperate hope in her eyes that I recognized from my own mirror 5 years ago. I want to start a Haitian-Japanese fusion truck, she said. Everyone says I'm crazy. I handed her a plate of our newest creation, kimchi mac and cheese, topped with Colombian-style fried plantains, and smiled. The best ideas usually are. Tell me more. We talked for an hour. I gave her Marcus's card and told her to mention my name. Later, as Jin and I cleaned the truck, he asked if I thought she'd make it. Well, she's got the hunger, I said, scrubbing the flat-top grill that started it all. Sometimes that's all you need. That and someone willing to invest in your crazy. The rain started again as we finished cleaning Portland's ever-present reminder that nothing comes easy here. But I've learned to love the rain. It reminds me of that first day when 3 tech bros laughed at my little truck with the big dreams. Now I own 15 restaurants, employ hundreds of people, and feed thousands daily. We're planning locations 16 through 20, possibly franchising. And Carlos is writing a cookbook that tells our story through recipes. But the best part, When people ask how I built this empire, I get to tell them it started with a failed software engineer, a borrowed retirement fund, and the absolute certainty that Korean tacos could change the world. They usually laugh at first. Then they taste the food. Then they stop laughing. Just like Richard Bentley. Just like all the others who thought fusion comfort food from a beat-up truck was a recipe for failure. They laughed, and I cooked, and I grew, and I learned, and I failed, and I succeeded. Now, when it rains in Portland, I don't see obstacles. I see opportunity. I see the next desperate dreamer with a wild idea and empty pockets ready to prove the world wrong one plate at a time. My name is Maria Santos. 5 years ago, they laughed at my food truck. Now I own 15 restaurants. And I'm just getting started.